Is Topaz Sharpen AI a gimmick, or does it actually work? Well, according to the Topaz Sharpen AI's website, they state that the AI-powered image sharpener produces natural results. And then it goes on to say, you can naturally sharpen your images with no artifacts, get jaw-dropping results in a wide variety of situations with deep learning models trained for shake reduction, focus correction, and blur removal, blah, blah, blah. It sounds like a bunch of marketing jargon, doesn't it? And if you scroll down, you're gonna get more marketing hype and before and after images, and all of this is pretty impressive. But again, the question is Topaz Sharpen AI a gimmick, or does it actually work? Well, let's find out by testing out these 4 images right here that either have motion blur, are soft in general, or out of focus. Now, this first engagement portrait I did was shot with an aperture of f1.8, and I placed the initial focus point on his eyes, and due to the shallow depth of field, she's out of focus. So I tried to fix this with Lightroom's Sharpen model, however, it didn't work. So can we fix it with Topaz Sharpen AI? Well, we're gonna find out in a moment. Now, this landscape image I captured at Letchworth State Park in New York, and this was about 30 minutes before sunrise or during the blue hour, and I had to use a really slow shutter speed of right around 1 second. Now, I really love this image, but it's a bit soft even though I used a prime lens at f11. And this could be due to the motion blur that occurred during the capture with a slow shutter speed. And yes, I did use a tripod, but it's still a bit blurry. So I know in Lightroom, we can't fix motion blur, or at least get results that are acceptable, at least for me. Now, I have another engagement couple here, and if we zoom in, you can see that it's very blurry and it's impossible to fix in Lightroom. Now, the 4th image we're going to test with Topaz Sharpen AI is this burrowing owl that I captured a few months ago, and it's very soft or blurry as well. Again, I was unable to get any of these images sharpened properly in Lightroom, so we're gonna open up all of them into Topaz Sharpen AI to see what kind of results we can get and see if it lives up to all the hype. Now, although I'm selecting TIFF files, you can also create JPEG files or work with the original RAW files. Now, I like using TIFF files for my workflow. Also, you don't need Lightroom to use Topaz Sharpen AI, since you can also use it as a standalone app. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm gonna go ahead and click right here to open up Topaz Sharpen AI. And then when I find my files here, I can select them all, click and drag them onto the interface to open them up. So let's go ahead and see if Topaz Sharpen AI can fix these images. All right, so down here at the bottom, we have a list of all 4 image files by name, and you can select the one you want to work on just by clicking on that file name. So let's start off with this couple first. And once you select that file, Sharpen AI is going to auto-magically apply a sharpened model based on its AI technology to begin sharpening the image, and it will also auto-magically select the subject so that only the sharpening is applied to the couple versus the background, because we don't want to sharpen the background since I blurred it out intentionally with a shallow depth of field and a long lens. That being said, you can always turn this on and off depending on the image that you're working on, because I don't necessarily have any subjects in that landscape photo. Also, if it doesn't select all of your subject or too much of the image, you can refine by clicking right here, and then you can subtract from that mask so that that sharpening isn't applied where it's not needed. So let's take a look at the results that Topaz Sharpen AI has given us by default. So right now I'm in the split mode view here, and then I can click this line to the left and right to see the improvement or lack thereof. So I'm gonna go ahead and zoom in here to around 150 to 200% so we can get a better idea of the sharpening that's going on. Now, if we take a look at the before here, you can see that it's soft. And as I drag it to the left, you can see that the image is now sharper, or the subjects are sharper in this case. So his eyes are definitely sharper than they were before. And her eye, even though it's not on the same plane for that depth of field, which is on his eye here, her eye is a little bit sharper than it was before. And you can also see that her hair is much sharper as well. So Topaz Sharpen AI fixed this image and made it better by sharpening it. Now, for this particular image, the sharpening is a little aggressive on his skin, her skin, and her hair. So I would go in and I would refine my subject selection overlay and remove it from those areas so that the sharpening isn't applied in those areas. Or you can click on change here and choose a different model of sharpening. So in other words, each one of these options is like an algorithm built in with AI technology that will change how much of the image is sharpened based on these different variables. So we have motion blur, out of focus, so like lens blur or shallow depth of field, plus too soft. So if you're not getting the results you want from standard, try one of these other options here. You can also adjust the intensity of the sharpening by adjusting remove blur to either the right or the left. To the right, it will become sharper. To the left, it will be less sharp. All right, let's take a look at the landscape image next. And you can definitely see that it's really soft. There's not a lot of definition or detail in the trees. They're all kind of mushed together. But once it applies out of focus, very blurry, you can see that it's definitely sharper than it was before. Pretty awesome, if you ask me. All right, now let's take a look at our second couple here. And very, very blurry, right? So I shot this at 2.8 with a long lens at about 200 millimeters. And I do believe I shot with a shutter speed of 1/1000th of a second. So you would think that with that type of a shutter speed, there wouldn't be any motion blur. But apparently I didn't hold the camera steady enough and I created some motion blur as they were walking towards me, and the image is out of focus, which is why I selected out of focus, very blurry for this particular image. And we need to turn on our subject selection so that it's just applying that sharpening to the white areas of this mask. And here is the final result. How cool is that? I love it. So Topaz Sharpen AI saved this image by applying its artificial intelligence and making the image sharper. Otherwise, I would have had to have deleted the image and would have missed out on these great expressions. Now for the last image here of the burrowing owl, we can see that the owl is very, very soft, but with out of focus, very blurry. It does an excellent job of just not sharpening the image, but removing the digital noise as well. All right, so it seems that the hype around Topaz Sharpen AI is real, since it fixed all 4 of my images, including the motion blur, the lens blur, or the shallow depth of field, and general softness. But don't take my word for it. Download a free trial via the link in the description to use on your own images to see the results for yourself.